All right, so the things that I was gonna test on this camera, I am gonna go ahead and let you guys know it was not as bad as I thought it would be, but yet there's a few things that, you know, I think in future firmware updates will get improved on, but I will get to that in a little bit later. So with that being said, I actually, you know, the performance is not as bad as anybody would say, because unless you kind of like test it out what's going on the outside. So, but let's just put it this way: if you have a mirrorless camera, right? Let's say you have an R5 or an R6 or an EOS R, RP, you know that navigating through the menu, it's fairly simple right out of the box. You should be getting accustomed to it. Basically, like comparing like a low budget car, and the dashboard is simple, right? Versus when you get an R5C, it's a cinema kind of menu that you need to get used to it. It's more like getting a more advanced, like a Tesla. Let's put it that way. Like a dashboard of a Tesla. You still need to get used to the whole new type of technology. But the tests that I've actually already done are just simple quick on tests. Nothing too in-depth, but at least to give you an insight of what the camera is capable of and what potential does it have. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start off with the autofocus. And so with autofocus, well, you know, I had to make sure that it was as good as they say it was, if not comparable to what the R5 and R6 is. Now, we do remember that the dual pixel autofocus is functioning on the photo side, but on the video side it's not, and so you just get a autofocus 1, I believe. I basically do a lot of weddings, and so I shoot, I want to make sure that my couple is in focus, not out of focus, right? And so with the face detection on, but next I wanted to go ahead and give it a shot with the eye detection on. And with that, it still does a pretty good job in detecting my eye, even if it's far away as well. So with that, being said, it does well in that kind of a distance wise, my opinion. But and then I thought to myself, well, if it does really well, when it comes to just regular lighting, how well will it do even autofocus wise in a low lighting kind of scenario? So I wanted to see how well that performed, but that I didn't go up to that level. I also took it up to another level because I wanted to compare it also with my R6 that also does really well in low light scenarios. So here it is, and basically what we're seeing here is a low light capabilities on the R5C. And basically this is just gonna be showing you guys how the low light scenario is between these two, and I can't even tell you how impressed I am with the low light, and with the eye tracking on, not just as face priority but also with the eye tracking on, and it does a really fairly good job when it comes to tracking. And so that's what really impressed me a lot about the R5C. So it's really good. Of course, I haven't done a wedding with it, but that is definitely coming up because I definitely want to put this through its paces. One of the things that I know it will never do, and I can confirm this, it will never overheat. I even recorded 4K 60 on this camera, and based on, of course, battery life, which I will get to it in a sec here, with a battery grip. Basically the overheating just does not seem possible on this device. I mean, it does get warm to the touch though, to the body, but it doesn't do anything else. So overall, low light performance and autofocus really good. Now, how about it actually low light capabilities by itself on the R5C? So basically I tested this on the ISO level. So I started off with the ISO 800, and then of course I move on my way you know, all the way to the ISO 25,600. But as you can see, as each level of ISO is coming up, then basically it just creates a little bit of noise as you go higher. Of course, that's how it is. It just depends on what lens you're using, because it also depends on the aperture that you're actually filming in, right? So for me, in that case scenario, I've been using the Canon 24-105 f4L lens. Of course, you can definitely, you know, if you have a 24-70 f2.8 RF lens, you can do that, even on the EF. So of course, the lower the aperture, the more light you're letting into the lens. But for me, for these tests, like I said, I wanted to work with just what I had for a prime lens in the meantime. So I think that it does pretty good well even in the low light scenarios. So that's basically the quick test that I've done. Okay, so now let's talk about the battery life of the R5C. Now we know that the LPE, yes, LPE6NH, it's just a single battery, but I found out pretty interesting things about how this camera R5C performs, which is a single battery, and also how it performs with the battery grip results that I already use, because I currently use a Canon OEM battery grip that fits my R6 as well as will fit this, the R5C. So, two factors that I found out about using this battery alone is, number one, your frame rate. Okay, frame rate will let you know on the battery indicator on the R5C how many minutes you're gonna have to shoot. So the higher the frame rate, the less time you'll have of shooting. That's one. Number two, what I come to find out is basically the frame of the camera, the sensor. So if you're utilizing the full frame of it, then you know you're using up a lot of this battery. So those are the two things that are actually affecting performance on, well, affecting performance in a good way, but then also depending on what you shoot. So for me as a wedding videographer, I like to shoot everything in 4K 60 because I want to get that slow motion. Of course, during ceremonies, it becomes 4K 24. So with that being said, here are the results. What I found out when I used the battery and the battery grip. And we're going to start off with these tests. Now, these tests are from the settings that I have on in regards to these kind of tests and these results. So the settings are as follows. I have it starting at full frame, MP4 H.264, CF Express. I have it 4K 5994p, 60 frames per second. So when we look at the camera battery life in 4K 60 full frame mode, I was able to get out of this battery fully charged 35 minutes of use. And with the R5C with the battery grip, I was able to increase that, basically double that to 70 minutes. Switching over to 4K 60 under Super 35, which is crop mode, R5C comes out still the same, 35 minutes with 70 minutes with the grip. R5C comes out at 70 minutes. R5C with the battery grip, it's 125 minutes. Again, 2K 60 by default. And all these results are in the MP4 H.264, HEVC, and XFAVC. For 4K 30, we have full frame mode at 50 minutes and R5C with the grip at 80 minutes. When we switch over to Super 35 mode, exactly the same. And also now we go to 2K 30, we have over an hour at Super 16 mode, which remember it is cropped, and then R5C with the grip at 130 minutes. Next, we're gonna go ahead and just go into the 4K 24 with the Canon R5C single battery life at 70 minutes. R5C with the grip, 140 minutes. Basically, with the battery grip, you're increasing and double that. So 140 minutes, you're looking at just about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And then for 4K 24 Super 35, 70 minutes, 130 minutes again. And last but not least, the 4K 24 Super 16 mode, 90 minutes in the single battery, but with the grip, of course, double that, 180 minutes. But Alex, what about 8K? What about, 6K or other resolutions, right? And what other bit rates? And what if you shoot those continuous? How long does the battery last for? So Canon did release their also chart, which it goes into detail as far as how much bit rates, what resolution, what if you're using that full frame Super 35 or Super 16. Here it is. If you guys want to go ahead and give it a pause, when you look at this chart, you're gonna go see all those timelines. And remember, this is continuous recording, okay? So you're gonna see everything laid out with which type of batteries have been used for these kind of tests. Now it is similar to what I've used. I think it's pretty close. And all you have to do is just basically times that by 2, obviously by using a battery grip. That's all you have to do. So if you have any tips or anything else you guys want to give me, and then if you have owned a C70 or found out something about the R5C, even if you got one, leave the comments below. Let me know what you currently found out. Again, this is just one of a lot of tests going into it, okay? I haven't dived deep dive into these menu settings yet, but for now, these are my tests. Have one other thing I'm definitely gonna test out, and it is coming under shipment. It's basically the power bank, the Anker power bank that I ordered, and I may have a setting of how to set it up with my gimbal so that you don't have to worry about battery life or draining batteries throughout your day. Because remember one thing, as a wedding filmmaker, you either leave it on or turn it, and then you have to turn it off to conserve that battery. So I think it's pretty useful. Now, one last thing here that I was able to just point out is turning on to, let's say you put a battery in, you're able to turn off the sensor cleaning. It's up to you if you want to do that. But for me, I think with the sensor cleaner off, if I were to just turn it on, it like maybe in 1.5 seconds or between 1 and 1.5 seconds it turns on, and then switching it off, it's pretty quick. But for me, is this camera right for you, right? Is it for me? For the most part, at least 90% of the time, yes. When it comes to weddings, any other type of production, absolutely, this would fit the bill. But here's the thing, again, as a wedding filmmaker, you're always out and about shooting 4K 60, right? Or sometimes even 4K 120. And then ceremony time is 4K 24, and you want to make sure that these batteries are handling that situation, because you could be out there between 4, 6, 8. I don't even know if you can shoot even 10 hours of weddings. But that being said, if you have the battery grip, I highly recommend getting that grip. If you're just, if you worry so much about the times, just get the battery grip. But you're also going to need a lot of batteries as well. And it's basically, again, I'm going to test out the power bank. And then I will put those results on my next video, because I have more tests coming up. More tests, guys. So again, my name is Alex. I hope you find this useful, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.